I didn't mean to kill Austin. Ashley, I really didn't.
Face the judge.
I really think I did that. I didn't mean to hurt him.
I'm sorry for what happened, Your Honor, but I need to life in prison. And I'm not a bad person, but I made mistakes. But I'm not just some gangbanger that she tried to portray me as.
Life in jail. It's a sentence that reverberates with finality, extinguishing the flickering flames of youth and potential. But what happens to the dreams and aspirations of those young souls when they're confined to a world of concrete and steel? We'll delve into the gripping stories of 5 teenagers facing the unimaginable reality of a life in jail sentence. Seandell Jackson. Let us begin with Seandell Jackson, a figure standing before the Milwaukee County Courthouse facing the grim reality of his sentencing. Convicted of the brutal murder of 21-year-old Nathan Potter, a university student, Jackson's presence in the courtroom signifies the weight of his crimes. It was a night shrouded in darkness as Jackson and his accomplices set out on a sinister mission. Their eyes fell upon Nathan Potter, a 21-year-old student unsuspectingly leaving a local bar. Motivated by their twisted desires, they cornered him, demanded money with a menacing intent. But when Potter admitted he had no cash to offer, a sinister turn of events unfolded. In a moment that forever altered the course of lives, Seandell Jackson coldly pulled the trigger, extinguishing the young student's dreams and aspirations in a single fatal shot. The sentence that followed was deafening, as the echoes of a life cut short reverberated through the night. In a desperate bid to evade justice, Jackson fled to Mississippi, desperately hoping to escape the clutches of the law. But fate had other plans in store. It was his own flesh and blood, his own uncle, who ultimately tipped off the authorities, unable to bear the weight of the heinous act committed by someone he once knew.
The uncle says he tipped off police that Seandell Jackson was hiding down in Mississippi, where he was eventually arrested.
I don't have enough time to think about a whole lot of things now, because you just can't take nobody's life. You know, that's just wrong. I believe I did the right thing, and there's nobody can make me change that.
The courtroom was filled with tension as the trial unfolded, exposing the depths of Jackson's callousness. Throughout the proceedings, he made gestures towards the grieving family of his victim, displaying a disturbing lack of remorse for the irreversible pain he had caused. Even as he was escorted out of the courtroom, a chilling smile danced upon his lips, a haunting reminder of the darkness lurking within him. Amidst the sea of emotions, Jackson's mother bravely stepped forward, her voice trembling with a mixture of disbelief and heartache.
When I saw it on the news, I even cried. I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine what that mother is going through. I never had a clue that my child had anything to do with it. My son is not a monster. He is not a monster.
And then, in a moment of unexpected vulnerability, Seandell found the strength to utter words of remorse. His voice quivered as he pleaded for mercy, begging the court not to strip away his life, not to extinguish the flickering hope that perhaps, in the depths of his soul, he could find a path to redemption.
I apologize for my behaviors. Please don't take my life from me.
But justice, unyielding and unforgiving, had a different plan in store. The judge, casting a solemn gaze upon the convicted murderer, delivered a sentence that would reverberate with finality.
Life and the need to protect the community, which I also fear for with Mr. Jackson being out in the community. I am going to go ahead on count 1, the first-degree intentional homicide conviction, and I am going to sentence Mr. Jackson to life imprisonment without possibility for extended supervision. I know that that is something that is reserved for the most serious of cases, and I believe that this case rises to that level.
The weight of the sentence bore down on Jackson's shoulders, an unbearable burden that tore through his being. The dam of emotions finally burst, and in a moment of chaotic desperation, he unleashed an outburst that shook the courtroom to its core. Deputies swiftly moved in to restrain him, while the victim's family, eternally scarred by their unimaginable loss, bore witness to the harrowing display of anguish.
If they could act up like that in the courtroom, just imagine what would happen if I'd have been out in the hallway by myself.
Jennifer Mee.
It didn't hit me at first until I was in the back of the cop car with handcuffs and a paper gown. I'm like, no, this has to be some type of joke.
What happened to that sweet 15-year-old girl that we first met?
I couldn't even tell you. I got cased up with the wrong crowd of people, really. Unfortunately, when I started experimenting with drugs, I just felt like I was invincible to everything.
Jennifer Mee finds herself within the confines of the Pinellas County Justice Center, a mere 19 years old, but facing the weight of serious charges, first-degree murder. However, this isn't the first time Jennifer Mee has captured the public's attention. At the age of 15, she gained international fame as the Hiccup Girl, when she developed an inexplicable case of uncontrollable hiccups. The media was enthralled by her condition until her hiccups were cured, and then she faded from the public eye.
Are you so surprised that you're still known as the Hiccup Girl?
Some days I am, because it's just like I know that it's a name that will never die down.
But now Jennifer Mee once again finds herself in the spotlight, albeit under vastly different circumstances.
Every time I walked into school, oh, there goes the Hiccup Girl. Oh, look at Jennifer. Let's be friends with her, and all this and that. That was still very overwhelming. People that I never thought I would even talk to came up to me and acted like they wanted to be my friend.
You became the it girl.
Yeah.
And what did you do with that fame?
I basically let it all go to my head and just started doing what I wanted to do.
Jennifer Mee stands accused of orchestrating a robbery scheme with victims she had met online. She allegedly recruited her boyfriend at the time, Lamont Newton, and another friend named Lauren Rayford to assist in these crimes.
When I walked off, I was to the corner. I heard the first gunshot. After the first gunshot, I ran in the house and locked the door and sat in there till the boys came back up, and that's when my mom started screaming, "He shot, he killed the man," and we had to all get up and leave. That's the first thing that came out of my mouth. What happened to the gun? He said I threw it after I popped it off.
Took the path of the devil, I really did. Instead of keeping my faith with the Lord, I let the devil overcome me.
However, the story took another unexpected turn when a recorded phone call between Jennifer Mee and her mother surfaced.
Because I set everything up, it all went wrong, but it just went downhill after.
The trial unfolded and the jury reached a unanimous decision. Jennifer Mee was found guilty of first-degree murder, forever altering the trajectory of her life. The weight of her actions settled heavily upon her as the guilty verdict was announced. As the judge prepared to deliver the sentence, Jennifer Mee was called to the podium. The courtroom braced itself for the judge's words, knowing that lives would be forever changed in that moment. With unwavering authority, the judge pronounced the sentence.
Jury, having found you guilty of murder in the first degree, Miss Mee, I will adjudicate you guilty and sentence you to life in prison without parole.
Leaving Jennifer Mee and those present to grapple with the irreversible consequences of her choices. Nicholas Cruz. A life sentence for unimaginable tragedy. In February 2018, tragedy struck Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in South Lake, Florida. Nicholas Cruz, a troubled teenager, carried a firearm into the school and perpetrated a senseless act of violence, taking the lives of 17 innocent people. After a lengthy trial, Cruz was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The families of the victims had hoped for the death penalty, but the jury failed to unanimously recommend it, leaving them angered and disappointed. Broward Circuit Judge Elizabeth Shearer, however, imposed the statutorily mandated sentence, ensuring that Cruz would never walk free again.
Mr. Cruz, you are remanded to the custody of the Department of Corrections to complete the mandatory life sentences imposed by the court.
But what spoke volumes during the sentencing was Cruz's disturbingly emotionless demeanor. As the families of the survivors and those who tragically lost their lives took the stand to share their pain and grief through victim impact testimony.
How many times you were shot?
At that time, I didn't know. I just felt like one shot.
Right.
But I got 5 times. So.
Cruz remained cold and impassive. Wearing a red prison jumpsuit and eyeglasses, he tried to hide his expressions behind a medical mask, further infuriating Jennifer Gutenberg, the mother of a 14-year-old victim who pointed out the disrespect in doing so.
You shouldn't be sitting there with a mask on your face. It's disrespectful to be hiding your expressions under your mask when we as the families are sitting here talking to you.
Despite hearing heart-wrenching stories of loss and witnessing the raw pain of grieving parents, Cruz showed no remorse, no flicker of empathy. His face remained a blank canvas, void of any emotion, as if he were entirely detached from the consequences of his actions. As the judge read out the sentences, Cruz's lack of reaction was chilling. Life after life condemned him, yet he did not show the slightest sign of regret or sorrow. The families yearned for a glimpse of humanity, a shred of remorse, but all they saw was a young man who seemed immune to the profound effect of his crimes. Following the sentencing, as Cruz was transferred to the custody of the Florida Department of Corrections, the families left the courtroom, carrying the burden of grief and loss. While the trial came to an end, the haunting image of Cruz's emotionless face would forever linger in their hearts. Dylan Shoemaker was a 16-year-old who was convicted of second-degree murder in Buffalo, New York. He was babysitting his girlfriend's 23-month-old child when she went to work. During that time, Shoemaker beat the child, causing fatal injuries. Shoemaker claimed that he was trying to get the child to stop crying and never intended to hurt or kill him. However, the jury did not believe his defense and found him guilty of second-degree murder. At his sentencing in a Buffalo courthouse, Shoemaker entered the courtroom and immediately started crying.
I didn't mean to kill Austin. Ashley, I really didn't. I really think I did that. I didn't mean to hurt him.
At 16, you knew right from wrong. Had a bad childhood, had some troubles. At 16, you knew not to keep pounding your fist on that pillow with that little baby's head there. Austin trusted you. Now this is what he trusted you. And from the testimony, it appeared that boy loved you. What a betrayal of trust.
Prior to the trial, a recorded phone call between Shoemaker and his mother from the holding center was presented in court. In the conversation, Shoemaker mentioned that he believed crying in front of the jury would make them feel sorry for him.
After listening to your testimony at trial, I came away with the impression that you minimize your actions, that you are a manipulator, and you try to deceive. The record will show that you admitted that on July 23, 2013, in a phone call to your mother from the holding center, you stated, "I am a 16-year-old blonde. Probably all I have to do is cry in front of the jury, and they're going to feel sorry for me." End quote. The night you offered to babysit Austin, you were busy on your cell phone, texting over 200 times, trying to sell drugs and to set up a sexual tryst with another minor girl. Too bad that was not all you did. It is a judgment of this court that upon your conviction for the crime of murder in the second degree, that you be sentenced to an indeterminate term of imprisonment which will have a maximum of life. The court hereby imposes a minimum sentence of 25 years.
Brandon Spencer appeared in Los Angeles County Superior Court where he faced charges of 4 counts of attempted murder. The incident took place on Halloween night when 19-year-old Spencer attended a crowded party on the University of Southern California campus in Los Angeles. Suddenly, gunshots rang out, causing panic and chaos as people scattered and sought shelter. It was reported that Spencer also fled the scene, but was apprehended by the LAPD in a parking lot a half a mile away. A few days later, he was formally charged with 4 counts of attempted murder. During the trial, prosecutors argued that the shooting was a result of a feud between Spencer and a rival gang member. They contended that Spencer, who is known to be associated with a documented gang, was willing to shoot someone and open fire into a crowd, demonstrating a clear intent to cause harm. However, Spencer maintained his innocence throughout the trial.
I'm sorry for what happened, Your Honor, but I need some life in prison. And I'm not a bad person, but I made mistakes. But I'm not just some gangbanger that she tried to portray me as.
When the jury delivered the verdict, nearly 50 family members and friends packed the courtroom. As the judge read the sentence, Spencer's reaction was intense.
The minimum period of parole eligibility is 15 years plus 25 years of life in accordance with Penal Code Section 12022.53D. This is to be concurrent with the
Ultimately, Brandon Spencer was sentenced to 40 years to life for the 4 counts of attempted murder. And that concludes our discussion for today. They serve as reminders of the importance of upholding justice and striving for a safer society. Let us reflect on these stories as we continue our pursuit of understanding and empathy. And thank you for joining us today.